Hi everybody, welcome to my first Authortube video! Woohoo! I've been dreaming about getting into the Authortube scene for a while now, and I was super excited to talk to one of my friends over the holiday break and finally get the ball rolling on this. She introduced me to the Authortube Newbie Tag, and this is where you'll get to know a little bit about me and what this channel will have to offer, and you can decide if you'd like to subscribe or not. Question number 1. How did you find out about Authortube? I actually found out about Authortube, oddly enough, through Instagram. I follow several people on there who are part of the Authortube community, and seeing a lot of their videos, what they offered, and how much fun they were having, the connections that they were making with their readers and with each other, it just seemed like a really cool place to socialize. And being an extrovert, it was only a matter of time, basically, before I jumped on that bandwagon. Question 2, what genres do you write in? I know that they say you're supposed to brand yourself to a particular genre when you start publishing, but I can't seem to stick with just one. I have a very special love for anything supernatural. I love creating and writing magic systems, but I would say probably my overall favorite genre to write in is fantasy. Anything from fantasy light to epic high fantasy. A lot of my novels, when I write fantasy, they tend to wax around the 200K mark, so that probably says something about my sheer inability to stop once I start any kind of swords and sorcery, dragons, any kind of story that has those elements. That's where you're gonna find me at my best. Question number 3, what is your preferred writing tense, point of view, and category of story? I love writing in lots of different tenses and points of view. I really like testing the waters and just seeing what I can come up with when I change up my voice style and my genre. But I would say that my preferred, where I feel like I can just go for it and not overthink the way that I'm writing, is when I write past tense, third person, and somewhere in between young adult and new adult. I kind of jump between having teenage protagonists and protagonists in their 20s to 30s, which is supposedly the cutoff for new adult. I find as I get older, I am starting to range more into characters that are closer to my age or a little bit older. Back when I was, 17, 18, writing characters that were 23, 24, they just seemed so old and wise, and now that I'm in my mid-20s, I don't feel as old and wise as I thought my characters would be at that age, so I'm starting to progressively write my characters older the older I get. Question number 4, are you a plotter, pantser, or plantser? I would honestly say it depends on the story. Some of my stories do fairly well if I plot them out from start to finish. Other ones, like the one that I'm working on right now, I went into it with a vague idea of how the first maybe 6 chapters were going to go, and then within those 6 chapters, the characters just started throwing out references to things I knew were going to come up in later chapters, and the next thing I knew, I was 25 chapters into it. Kind of have an idea of where I'm going. I usually have a few scenes that I'm working towards somewhere in the vague distance, but I usually don't plan chapter by chapter or even beat by beat. I guess maybe I fall more into the plantser category. I can usually get by just having a few major scenes planned and then working toward those as I go to kind of keep me inspired and motivated. Question 5. Are you self-published, published, or yet to be published? I am soon to be published, soon to be self-published. As of March 12th, 2019, The Chaos Circus will be coming out through Amazon and Barnes & Noble and a lot of those online retailers that we all know and love. Question number 6. What publishing company, literary agent, and/or printing company are you represented by or use? If you're not yet published, what is your dream publishing house and/or literary agent? It's kind of funny for me to answer this question because the answer that I would give now and the answer I would have given 6 or 8 months ago are totally different. Back in the summer of 2018, I had it all mapped out. I had a list of dream agents and dream publishing houses. I knew the exact path I wanted my publishing life to go. Hasn't really gone that way. So at this point, the printing company that I'm using is Ingram Spark. I'm also learning my way through Kindle Direct Publishing, which is a whole new beast from CreateSpace, which I learned back in 2014. Question number 7. What kind of Authortube content can we expect to find on your video? Can I say it's a secret? At this point, I don't really know for sure. I do have a lot of written content on my blog that I'd love to turn into videos just because it's a different media through which to convey those thoughts. I think in the future, I'd love to do a lot of challenges and tags with my friends. I'd also be really super excited to do book reviews. The vast majority of what I want to offer is just a lot of encouragement. Encouragement is a huge deal to me, both in my life as a writer when I interact with my fellow writers and also just people in general. So I think you'll see a lot of things that are for encouragement and also writing advice to help people out as they're breaking into self-publishing, tips on editing, just anything that I feel like could be useful or valuable to people and make their lives as writers a little bit easier. That's going to be my goal. Question number 8. When did you start writing? It's kind of strange to me that I remember this day as well as I do, considering the house we lived in. I must have been about 4 or 5 years old. My mother wanted to go and take a shower in peace, and with a 4/5-year-old, that was not an easy thing to do. So she took my brother's drawing desk and stuck it outside the bathroom door and gave me a piece of paper and told me to just write whatever I wanted until she got out of the shower. And I basically picked up the pen and haven't put it down since. And here I am at 25, almost 26 years old, still plugging away. Question number 9. What was the first story you ever wrote? I guess it's a good thing I remember that day so clearly because I can actually answer this question. First story that I wrote was about 3 sentences long, and it was about a dog who had to go to obedience school and be put on a diet because she ate too much food. This was a direct outworking from our first cat, which we had gotten about a year previous, who was put on a diet by our vet. And ever since then, I have just continued my storytelling, but I will say this, my plots have definitely improved. Question number 10. What authors have inspired you the most with writing? I could probably make an entire video on this, and it would be too long for anybody to watch because there are just so many authors who have inspired me at different points in the journey, but I would say probably the absolute biggest was C.S. Lewis. Before my mom read us The Magician's Nephew when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, I had a really hard time with reading. I was not the best speller, and I'm still really not. And also back then, pronouncing words was really tough for me. So when I would try to read and somebody would correct me, I just felt dumb and eventually just pushed back and didn't want to read anything at all, ever. And then the Chronicles of Narnia happened. My mom read us the first 2 books, but then in order to keep going, I had to pick it up and read it for myself. And that basically changed everything. I've been a gigantic high fantasy fan ever since. There are so many books and so many authors that have influenced me. I wish I could thank them all in person, but I will say that probably the biggest one of all was C.S. Lewis. I officially run out of fingers, so question 11. Do you schedule your writing sessions or simply get to writing whenever you can find the time? It's a mixture of both. I try to be a very disciplined person as much as I can because otherwise my life spirals out of control a little bit. So I am up at 5 o'clock every weekday so that I can get in a couple hours of writing before I work my 9-to-5 job. I also, if I'm feeling very inspired or if I have a night off with nobody to talk to, I will try to write a little bit in the evenings. Question number 12. Do you type on a computer, typewriter, write everything out by hand, or use a blend of those? Again, it kind of depends on the story. For my book, The Chaos Circus, I had several large chunks of the story that I hand wrote in my notebook. For the most part, I tend to just type, mostly because A, the spelling problems that I talked about, and B, usually my thoughts kind of get ahead of my hands, and so I tend to get more done and say it better when I can type, and then just go back and fix the typos. And last but not least, question number 13. What are you most looking forward to now that you're a part of Authortube? I think the thing I'm most excited about is honestly just a whole new way to connect with people. I'm an extrovert with social anxiety, so being behind the camera, while it's scary, it allows me to connect with people and still feel a little bit in control, so my anxiety isn't so bad. So I think that this will be a learning experience for me in one way or another, and that's what I'm looking forward to the absolute most about joining Authortube. Thanks for coming and watching my video, guys. If you like what you saw, or if you're excited about what is to come, go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell, you know the YouTube drill. I will try to have a pretty steady stream of content coming out in 2019, especially as I'm going to be just taking a lot of the info from my blog and turning it into a video format. If there are any subjects in particular that you would like to see me cover, leave me a comment and I will add them to my list. Bye, guys.